Hey, welcome into Chatterbox Bearcats, the midweek show. I'm your host, Nick Niehaus, joined by Eric Lilly, or at Bearcat Bunch on Twitter. Give him a follow on Twitter, or X actually, as it's now called. The best Bearcat analysis, news, recruiting rankings, all sorts of that stuff. Lilly, I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but I'm dealing with a minor cold right now. So if I sound a little bit different, that's why. I don't want to call it Jordan flu game, more like Javen Cumberland has some December allergies coming off the bench in the Brandon era, but that's where I'm at. How you feeling?
I got a little something too, but we're fighting through it. I don't think it's as bad as yours, but yeah, usually just 2 hours in the morning, then I'm good right now. But it's that time of year.
Yeah, it sure is. All right. Well, hey, speaking of time of year, it's where we got the crossover for the football and basketball teams. We're going to get into football later, but I'm fully transitioning into basketball mode. I'm going to be honest with you. So we're going to start off with that. And some good news. Wes Miller, he talked today. Now we're recording this on Tuesday evening. Wes Miller with the latest update saying that Dan Skillings has been working out and they've got him on a zero gravity treadmill. It's one of those things. Yeah, he said you have to look it up on YouTube because it's one of those contraptions. I think it grabs you on the waist. You're not putting that much pressure on, but he's running on that. So that's a good sign. I think he said that he was working out this morning as well. I know you tweeted out the schedule, how many days are left for each, recent game. My question to you would be, at what point? Now, obviously, the best case scenario would be the next game, right? But at what point do you need to see Dan Skillings out on the floor?
I think the easy answer is Xavier. I think like getting him in there for a little against Howard would be awesome just to get some game reps in. I think just throwing him into the fire of the crosstown shootout is a little frightening. Like from my perspective, maybe he's just wired different. Athletes are very much different than us normal humans, but get some game time. I think the perfect scenario is Villanova, just a couple minutes in his hometown, and then back for Howard, and then ramping up towards Xavier. But more realistic, it feels like that Howard timeline makes a little more sense because he got surgery 15 days ago. So by the time we get to Howard, we're talking almost a month. And Xavier is just over a month. So whether we don't really know what the injury was, but it seems like it was a minor knee operation. And, we were given timelines anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks. So Xavier's right in the middle of that.
Wes Miller plays it close to the vest. I would say personally, if we were playing at Cintas Center, I would love to see him get in against Howard. It's a little different at home. The nerves aren't going to be quite as bad. He's not going to be as rusty at home in front of his own crowd, I don't think. I got to see him play against Xavier, though. We cannot afford our probable best player down against this team. It's one you got to win. I know we say it pretty much every single show just to get the monkey off Wes Miller's back, because that's what people are going to point to as his tenure at head coach so far, is that he can't beat Xavier. So this one we need. We need this one. But that's good to hear in terms of, Dan Skillings. Now I want to move on to another player, and I'm going to talk about some rankings here for a second. We like to talk about Ken Pom, and EvanMaya.com. These are for people who don't know. We just kind of say it and assume that everybody knows what we're talking about. These are analytical rankings online. Now, I think the cool thing about Ken Pom is, and Evan Maya does too, but I'm pretty sure it's like a premium subscription. But the cool thing about Ken Pom is it ranks every single team in the country. Whereas, back in the day, you would go off the top 25, then you'd be unranked. You don't know where teams stack up if you're just a casual fan. Ken Pom, you see where everybody stacks up. So I think that's the popularity there. But with that being said, these are analytical rankings. So that's my disclaimer. Since we keep talking about all of these, we're 15th in Ken Pom, 9th in Evan Maya. And Evan Maya, I didn't describe that. That's just a competitor of Ken Pom. But either way, I'm going to rattle off these rankings real quick. The Bearcats are 7th in Ken Pom, one behind the back-to-back national champion UConn Huskies. They are 8th in Evan Maya, and also Evan Maya does player rankings. Dylan Mitchell is ranked as the 3rd most valuable player in the country, right ahead of the probable number 1 pick in the NBA draft, Cooper Flagg of Duke. Easy question. How awesome is this? We're top 10 in every category on pretty much every website you can find. It's just such a cool feeling because, we starve for years on where we rank nationally. Everybody says, yeah, UC's a top 15 program of all time. Sure. I'm 27 years old. I haven't felt that. We've been good a few years. This is the first year where I'm starting to feel like we're back on the national stage. How are you feeling about these rankings? Hey, look, these might not mean anything. I know it's analytics. Some people might hate analytics, but how do you feel about them?
The truth lies in the middle. They matter. And it's not like I check KenPom every day, and a lot of people check it every day. And it's just a really good way to kind of like manage expectations for me. Like, this is like, if we're 35th and we're walking into a game against the 10th best team, it's kind of like Vegas odds, really. Like, a lot of these score lines are pretty close to the Vegas odds. So, he's doing something right. And Evan Maya has a little more like player ratings than KenPom does. And Mitchell, I use CBB analytics a lot too. And Mitchell's been grading really high on that as well defensively. So I think his defensive impact while he's been on the court this year, and I know we've only played 5 games, but has been crazy. It's like off the chain. Our defense is just way better when he's in. And we might even see a little bit of we got Page in foul trouble, and Mitchell played a little small ball there. Just a quick side note, Alabama State center 6'7", so maybe there's an opportunity there to get a little more small ball minutes in, rest his ease a little. But back to KenPom here. It matters that beating really bad teams by a ton matters. Like, every year there's a couple teams that emerge at the beginning of the season without beating like really good teams, and you can just, like BYU last year, and everyone's, they lost in the tournament, blah, blah, blah. They were still way better than we expected. They still had a very good season. There's more to basketball than just tournament results. And I mean, think about UConn 2 years ago when their first title season under Hurley. They started the season around 30. And by, November 26th? By November 26th, they were 12th. By December 1st, they were 6th. So they didn't go into that season thinking they were going to win a title. The players might have, but fans and the media did not. And they weren't beating anybody. Their best win didn't come till November 25th. So it means something. Like, you could tell when teams are starting to like maybe surprise other teams or fans. And it doesn't mean we're going to go do what they did, but it's much better than being 6-0, 45th in KenPom, looking bad against bad teams, but you're undefeated. So it's just something to kind of measure along and see where you're at.
I really enjoy it, and I want to hit on Dylan Mitchell being ranked 3rd in the country. You would talk to people this year, and some would forget that he was going to be on our team. I mean, people didn't think he was the 3rd best player on our team because you had Seamus, you had Jizzle, and you had Dan Skillings. He's ranked as the 3rd best player in the country. It's crazy. It's awesome. Now, to be devil's advocate for the whole analytical haters out there, you tweeted out how the players on our team stack up in the country, and just on our team. Dylan Mitchell obviously is number 1 on our team. Down the line goes Dylan Mitchell, Jizzle James, Aziz Bendago, and then Seamus Lukosius is ranked as our 4th best player according to Evan Maya. That is where people probably see analytics and are like, Seamus Lukosius has obviously been our best player so far this year. I'm sure defense plays a lot into that, whereas Dylan Mitchell has been the most complete player. But I think it goes a lot to show in terms of people like to read box scores and see that Seamus Lukosius has been just filling it up, which he has. But I like this in the sense of Dylan Mitchell does stuff that doesn't show up in the box score. And some of these players as well, like Jizzle James, like people thought maybe he would take over this team. And he had a great last game. I'm pretty sure he had 14 points, and he's been solid so far. He hasn't shot the ball well, but according to this ranking, he's our second most valuable player. And Aziz Bandago's been awesome. So I kind of just throw this out here just to show how, yes, in Cincinnati, we're excited for this team, but we're starting to garner national attention, and it's pretty awesome.
This is going to be the week where like 3-Man Weave and Ion College Basketball start talking about us just because we won 2 road games. There's a lot of basketball talk right now, so there's no reason for them to even bring us up until we beat somebody decent, So it's definitely going to start coming. I think they got an episode tomorrow. I'm sure we'll hear our name. And you mentioned Jizzle like popping on that rating too for Maya or Mia. I think it's Mia.
Oh, is it? Oh,
I mess it up too. Jizzle's graded really well defensively, like on these sides. And again, they're just numbers. It's early. We're playing mostly bad teams. But combine it with Wes kind of hyping up his improvements on the defensive end, it matters. Last year he would get yanked for day because of defense, not offense. You can tell Wes doesn't pull guys for offensive mistakes. So it's going to be, if he actually really improved defense, it's nice that we have 2 point guard options that are both really good defenders.
It is funny, like last year, just from looking at Jizzle James, you had some people that maybe don't watch as much Bearcat basketball as you or I or our co-hosts, Hudson and Charlie, and they'd be like, man, that Jizzle guy, he really can defend. And you're just sitting there like, are we watching the same game? I mean, it was early on last year, but he looks like he's somebody who can defend. This year, those same people can say that, and you can look at him being like, yeah, he's been really good on ball. Like, that is one area he's improved. It's good to see the progression in that Wes Miller not only recruits top-end talent, but these guys are going to get better and better. So I think we really have the full package with Wes there. You mentioned those national podcasts. One thing they're probably going to be talking about, the Big 12 as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
Hasn't been great. It hasn't been great. I'll say emphasis on great. I still think we're a really good conference. Don't get me wrong. I still think we're probably the best conference. But we've had some losses as a conference. And I wrote them down. I'm going to rattle them off. And some of them matter obviously more. I'm going to talk about the teams who were at the top end of the Big 12 preseason. Arizona, they got smoked by Wisconsin a couple weeks ago. Then they lose to Duke at home. Duke's really good, don't get me wrong. Baylor, smoked by Tennessee, and they lost to Gonzaga. 2 out of 4 of those losses are respectable. Those aren't awful losses. It's early on in the season. It's still November. It's the big losses that I think people are taking notice of. Texas Tech, they lost to St. Joe's. Houston loses to Auburn, game 2. Iowa State lost to Auburn. The top teams, now every single team that I just mentioned was a top 5 team in the conference that was ahead of Cincinnati. Should we be worried about the Big 12?
I don't think so. And like KenPom has the SEC ahead of the Big 12 now, and there's like kind of a gap actually. So, I don't think being the second best conference is like a bad thing as long as year to year we're always best or second best. But I think the main thing, like you mentioned some of the losses and said that they're not like bad losses. The issue for me is there's no statement wins. Like Kansas beat North Carolina. That's a statement win like on paper, but I watched them last night versus Dayton and they didn't look like North Carolina to me. I know they won the game, and then Baylor kind of had a miracle against St. John's. It's up for people to decide how much of a statement win that is. I think St. John's is pretty good this year. And then somebody beat Arkansas too. So it's like those are the wins. That's the problem. Like you got to beat the good teams to catch the SEC here. And then we have Houston coming up. It can change quick, Houston plays Duke tonight, or I might have got that wrong. Houston has Bama.
Yep.
Kansas has Duke. So you win both of those games, then all of a sudden the script completely changes. And happy to be here. That's how I am. So we're in the Big 12. Like it's awesome. Even if it's the segments, like it's no stress for me whatsoever. I'm worried about us right now. And maybe if everybody's a little worse than we expect, maybe we do something crazy this year.
I'm glad you brought up the games tonight because I had that written down as well. And it's the reason I referenced earlier that we're recording on Tuesday evening because tonight, or if you're listening to this on Wednesday, which you are, last night, Duke played at Kansas, Houston plays Alabama, Iowa State plays Dayton. I'm a little worried about the Big 12, so I hope you're listening to this, and I hope I sound like an idiot. I hope Kansas beats Duke, Houston takes care of Bama, and Iowa State takes care of business against Dayton. Although that's a catch-22 because we need Dayton to be as good as they possibly can be going into the game against us. But that Tuesday night's a big night, so that is, again, why I referenced when we're recording this because this might come to bite us. But with that being said, my opinion on the Big 12, even if Arizona and Baylor aren't as great, you still have Houston. You still have Iowa State. I think those two teams are elite. And then you have Kansas, which they have the talent. So, and I'm not even talking about Cincinnati. Like, I think we're really good. I think we're awesome. Like, I'm just talking about other teams. So those are 4 teams that I think are really good and honestly probably top 10.
And I hate to cut you off here, but
good.
Wes mentioned in his press conference. I'm jealous of all these games. Like I've been watching these big games the last couple of days. I'm so jealous. And Wes had a little teaser that maybe we'll get into a real holiday tournament next year, which would be great. Like because it's been a long time since we had an out of conference schedule that was exciting. And obviously, if we win them all this year, it's going to be exciting. But it would be fun to play some big brands without like March Madness stakes, like just see the Cats playing Duke, something like that. And something else you just mentioned sparked the thought with, Arizona and Baylor, especially Baylor. I've watched them quite a few times. I love our matchup against them right now. Like we're bigger. They can score like crazy, but I think we can really kind of punish them with our size. But if you look at our Big 12 schedule, we play Baylor twice, Texas Tech twice. They've had a weird start. I still think they're good. But the ones that look good, Kansas, Houston, Iowa State, we play them all once. So it's kind of aligning to a scenario where you could say we have an easier Big 12 schedule than, I mean, it's not easy, but compared to the others. So when you have a 20-game conference season and stuff like that can matter with standings.
And you alluded to it, but Wes Miller said we should expect some sort of tournament next year. So that's good because, I mean, we had Maui a couple years ago, and I have an awful game memory. So if I'm wrong, please say I'm wrong. But that's where we played Arizona, right? But at that point, it felt like we were the true underdogs. And if we knock off Arizona, it's just a massive victory in terms of we didn't feel like we were there yet. I feel like if we were in this year's Maui tournament, I'm not in the same mind space as I was 2 years ago. And that's kind of obvious because we weren't as good. But even the holistic view as a program feels different, where I don't feel like I should be nervous going up against these teams. And if we lose, it's not the end of the world. Whereas 2 years ago, it's huge if we win, and if we lose, okay, well, let's just move on to the next game. We weren't going to win that anyway. So I really wish we had this year's team in Maui is kind of my point there because I think we could have competed and maybe we could have made some noise in one of these tournaments. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and we play Alabama State tonight, if you're listening to this on Wednesday. Alabama State, Wes Miller said it. I want to say it. Yeah, they're Alabama State, and yeah, they're in the SWAC. They only lost by 13 to LSU. They put up 82 points per game. They have a couple D1 wins. It was funny. Wes Miller said, yeah, against D1 opponents, they've won 2 of their last 3. We had somebody who was like, they're D1, right? They're not D2. It's like, yeah, they're pretty much D1. I guess I'll put it that way. How are we going to handle this one tomorrow night? I guess this team fills it up. I don't know much about Alabama State. I know you did all the prep on them.
Yeah, they started the season around 300, which is, scrub territory to the point where you just can't lose to that team when we're this good. But they're on a little climb here. They're up to 220 or 241. They gave LSU a game. But like I said earlier, their big man is 6'7". He can't shoot. And their backup big man is 6'10", 190. But he can shoot. So to me, this is one of those games where you can try some things if you want to ever try a small ball lineup, because I think Aziz is a better perimeter defender than he gets credit for. I think it just looks a little funny, so it stands out when he gets cooked. Kind of similar to Rudy Gobert. But this would be a good way to get some reps for Page, see if he can do it. And if it's not working, put Mitchell out there. Don't let the bigs beat us from deep. And they've just been a little pesky, I think we're going to be fine. They're pretty small. They're 6'2", 6'3", 6'3", 6'6", 6'7" is their starting lineup. We should be able to handle these guys, and I expect us to keep doing what we've been doing. The one thing is they shoot a lot of threes, so those are the teams. If they start off hot, you never know. The game can get a little antsy, but you should still come out on top regardless.
Yeah, I'm expecting this line to be 26.5. That's what I'm going to put it at. What about you? What do you give your best Vegas prediction here?
Oh man, right around there.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to say 28.
Okay. Hey, if we win by 25 plus, that's good. That's good to me. I'm good with that. Even no, I want to cover. I take that back. We're going to cover. Even if we don't cover, is what I was going to say.
We got to make that money back for the folks that lost on
Morehead State.
Morehead State game.
Oh my goodness, that's the only game we haven't covered, right? So that was a brutal one. That was a bad beat. All right, switching gears. We got that Wednesday night against Alabama State, but plenty to talk about in football, and none of it's good. Since we've last talked,
I'm sure I can find something good.
Well, find something good for me in the next few seconds, because since we've last talked on Saturday, we have lost 2 commits. Jahari Medlock flipped to Florida. Jordan Woods flipped to Ohio State. It's like we're a farm system out there, Lily. What's going on?
Well, we kind of are. Like, the Big Ten and the SEC, I think going forward, are going to treat the Big 12 and ACC plus all the other leagues as like essentially farm teams. And I think in this modern age of football that our approach is actually the right one. I know it's not working, but get your guys, develop them, and then retain them. And so far, we've actually retained everyone we wanted to retain. We might have lost one guy last year that the staff wanted to keep that long term. So, Dante stayed. We kept guys that want to play here. So we need to get to a point as a program where the guys that aren't flipping, like, the ones that we keep, they play, and then they want to stay here because they know they're going to play. Because those SEC schools, they're offering more money to be on the bench. So you have to sell that playing time. You've got to retain those players. And our NIL and our fan support has to be in a position where we retain guys that get good. To me, the reason, a lot of people are panicking right now. They're for good reason, but I will not panic until we're losing guys that I want to be here, if that makes sense. So that's my positive right now, and it might look dumb in a week, but as of now, we haven't lost anybody. We've lost 2 guys so far. We haven't lost anybody that was going to start next year. We got to keep our guys here, and it's a little separate topic. I kind of went on a tangent there because those commits that are flipping, there's 2 different types of flips that have happened to us. One is the blue bloods I'm going to group Florida in with there
Yeah.
just because it's a huge brand.
It's Florida.
Ohio State, Florida, Michigan. They're all there. Might be 2 tiers within that, but I just can't get myself to be mad about it. I'm sorry. That would have happened in the past. Like, it's not an NIL thing. It's not a Satterfield thing. The Illinois, the Indiana, the Mississippi State, the Kentucky, those will always bother me. They should bother you. And we would be in a much better place if we could keep those guys. And everything I hear, it's just the NIL issue. Like, they might make a couple more thousand in their redshirt year. So they know they're not going to play there their first year or their second year. So if we could just get a couple good years here, get the ball rolling, get the NIL numbers up, then we're going to keep all those guys in that tier. Never going to keep those Michigan, Ohio State, Florida guys. I mean, George Gums committed here for like a week, and then Florida flipped him in the transfer portal. He was a NIU guy. So that's how I look at it. It's like kind of positive, but also just taking a little emotion out of it, I think.
I hate football recruiting. This is my old man take. Like, football recruiting nowadays is the absolute worst. You have a commit, and it's like Cincinnati commit is taking his official visit to Arkansas. It's like, what in the world are we doing? Like, what? And I'm not I said old man take. I'm not the kind of old man who's like, hey, the word commit should mean something. It's like, I don't care about that. It's just like, it's not like the basis of it. I just like hate seeing Cincinnati commit take an official visit, name the SEC school. It pisses
I used to
me
follow
off.
it like crazy, and now it's just I follow it, but I wait till signing day to actually be invested in the person, the player. And the ridiculous thing I saw this week was some Oregon recruit had a tipped-in announcement that he was shutting down his recruitment. It's like he had a commitment announcement. Months later, he announces his recruitment is shut down, and he's going to have another announcement when he signs next week. So it's like, do we really need to announce that? Like, just tell the coaches, man. The fans don't need to hear that. We don't want to hear that. It's not fun. It's overwhelming, and it's like the lead. Like, basketball recruiting is so much more fun because
it is.
Guys commit and they stay for the most part.
Let's keep that to football. And I know these recruits, like the graphics and stuff, it's all for the likes, it's all for the clicks. Like, it is what it is. I'm not mad at them for that. It's just, goodness gracious, you don't have a kid until he steps on campus nowadays in football. So let's keep it that way. Also, Kalen Carroll is transferring as well, at least reported transferring. I might have missed the official announcement on there.
He posted it on Instagram.
Okay. So that's going on. We are in, for the casual fan, full panic mode. In my notes right here, I just have people are not happy. That is where we're at. I am kind of in that camp. But I'm also under the impression of we can't fire Satterfield anytime soon. Like, I'm a realist to an extent, and that is my reality. And that's really not just my reality. That's just the reality is he's not getting fired. So I'm not going to panic, but we're having full meltdowns on Twitter, on, just the internet. Like, everywhere you go is just negative regarding this football program. I don't want to compare it to John Brannon because that actually had some substance to what the coach was doing versus I think Satterfield is just not performing. But it feels like that on a fan perspective. Are you seeing the same stuff?
Yeah. And our perspective is so much different than the locker room stuff. And if you're like watching all the press conferences and listening to the players talk and stuff, you can kind of feel the energy of the locker room. Obviously, it's different in there, but this team is the panic, the stress, if you're only looking at the results, probably worse than, because Brandon was winning some games, like he wasn't the worst win and loss coach. He did not get fired for losing. He got fired for just all sorts of stuff. But this is, it's performance based. We see the losing, so we're upset. the players are still rallying around, senior day. But like after we lost to Pittsburgh, you could really see, like, I think I tweeted out right after Pittsburgh, I fully believe this team's better than last year. Like, they're not going to give up, lay down. We've lost 4 in a row. It looks like we're laying down. So, but I don't think we are. Like, it's just one of those weird things. It's up to your, most fans would say we're quitting. I see a lot of we're quitting. I follow Big 12 accounts on the Bearcat Bunch account just to like try to gauge other fan bases sort of. And I saw Baylor fans saying they quit after the BYU game. They've won 5 games in a row, or 5 out of 6 since that game. It's like fans are very bad at identifying what quitting is, especially during games.
It's such an easy thing to say.
Yeah. So, but we're going to find out a lot really soon. Like, we know who some of the good players are. If they don't leave in the portal, I'm guessing the locker room is much better than the fan vibes, like they're separate things. And it's very important for coaches to keep it separate, because once it starts leaking into the locker room, then you got a problem. It's a tough situation. And then the only good news I have on that front is we haven't lost yet. Like, we got 1 game. We didn't lose yet. So win it, get 6 wins. You can sell to everybody that you had a better year. You improved. It's not that exciting, but it's improvement.
Hey, that's very true. Let's talk about that game. We got TCU at home, Nipp at Nite. Finally, we get Nipp at Nite, and I hope the stadium is at over 50% capacity. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be 30 degrees outside at night, and people have already tuned out to this team. I'm trying to go. I might go just because I love Nipp at Nite. But we're underdogs at home to TCU, 3-point underdogs. What do you see with the Horned Frogs coming into Nippert?
They're good, man. They're on a run. Even when they were losing at the beginning of the year, the analytics to bring them up again didn't really waver much on TCU. They've been in that like 30 to 40 range on S&P Plus all year. I think right around like the top quarter of the conference, like just lingering. TCU, Texas Tech, and UCF have like far and away the most talent in this league, like on their roster. So they have talent as well. It appears that most of it is on the offensive side of the ball, if you want to look at the numbers here, because TCU's got a very questionable defense. And yeah, put it this way, they're 13th in offense, 62nd in defense. So, and they sling it, man. They've got Jack Beck, or a white wide receiver. They've got a couple white guys running around. Might mix them up, but he's got 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's having a great year. They throw the ball so much, and the first thing that comes to my mind then is we're going to do that thing where the game script of winning this game is us taking the lead and running the ball. Like we're doing it again, but we just can't get the lead and hold it. Like if we get the lead, our defense stinks. And then if we fall behind 20 points, the defense looks good.
Yeah.
So we do need to put it together. They sling it. Their rush defense is really bad. So that's the script right there. Get the lead, run the ball, kill the game off. Like, these guys are going to put up points if you let them have the ball. And then the turnovers. We need 0 turnovers. Let's get it out of it. We got it out of our system. And it's just that this is a must-win game. So there's fine margins, and the turnovers is the thing that's been killing us lately.
I think with what you just said, in terms of what they have, did you say 67th best defense in the country? I need to see something from Sorsby, because everybody hopped on the hype train. He was making these throws that we haven't seen made in many years. I was on here saying he's the best throwing quarterback we've seen since Tony Pike.
And he was at the time. Like,
and he
you
was.
can't even call yourself an idiot.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then we haven't scored 20 points in 6 weeks. I think if Sorsby goes out here, has a dud, there's no question you got to bring in some competition. I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but with that being said, Sorsby's supposed to be the guy. I want to see it against a good team. And this is his last chance to do so.
Yeah, just you can do a lot in this last game. Satterfield talked about it in the presser today about getting to 6 or 7 wins, just being like just showing them we made it's something tangible that you can tell people like, hey, we got better this year. Because right now, even though we have 5 wins, it feels like last year because of how it spiraled out of control a little here. So, I mean, not even just the team, but Sorsby, like you just said, Sorsby is, I'm all in on him personally. But to sell it to everybody, this would be a great opportunity. And TCU's got a pretty good pass defense. Think of Iowa State, like kind of like that. They guard the pass, they'll let you run it. So they also have way more sacks than Iowa State. So this is actually a real test for Sorsby. So if he does do well, it's a very good sign. But if we take a lead and run the ball, in theory, the pass should open up for him. I just don't want to get in that scenario where we're losing and we got to throw it against a team that wants you to throw it, and then the mistakes start happening.
I'm going to be cautious about this game. I'm not going to take us +3. I'm probably going to ride the team total again, just because I think that's an easy bet in terms of something to root for versus the final score. Because I'm not sold on us going in and either covering 3 points or winning. But 67th best defense, give me points. Give me points. Even in a loss, if we score a lot, Nick Niehaus is a happy camper.
The magic number is 24. Remember, the streak is still going. We got to get 24 points.
Yeah. If
Actually,
we don't get
we're probably going to need more than that, but
yeah, we probably will. But I'm happy with a good offensive performance because, I mean, the season's over at this point, right? Even if we go to a bowl game, it's not going to be anything special. I mean, that's just the reality of college football. Mm-hmm. But greener pastures.
Those AAC bowl games, though.
That is true. That is true. And I always have fun. I went to the Liberty Bowl when we played, or no, not the Liberty Bowl. We were just playing Memphis. Any road trip is fun for me. So I guess it is what it is. But that's all I got for football. Hey, greener pastures. Like we keep saying, greener pastures. This is the last show we're going to have to say that on the midweek show.
Yeah, next show will be Portal Talk, probably.
Yeah, right. All right, we got Alabama State Wednesday night. We got TCU Saturday night. Make sure you follow along. We're going to have post-game shows. Plenty of content for you guys. Lily, got anything before we go?
I'm just locked in. Let's get these 10 extra practices. Get the dub.
Absolutely. And let's win by 29 points.
That would be one of the most shocking things. Oh, sorry. Oh. I thought you.
No, I'm not crazy. I'm not. If we win by 29 points, all right. You know what? At this point, if we win by 29 points against TCU,
I'm sorry. You got to alternate spread it now just to say you called it.
You know what? I'm going to. I'm gonna take us 30
I want
points.
The receipts.
Yeah. No. Let's beat Alabama State by 30. All right, and let's just put up points against TCU, and I'm happy. But that's it. Hey, like I said, we're going to have live shows after both games. YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. It's all free. That's all I got, Lily. Go Bearcats.
All right, go Cats.